Um,
All
we are
right, all right,
live.
all right. We're
Let me
back.
listen, and we're
Yeah.
gonna get into this getting grounded for growth. And I appreciate this topic, but let's get to Sweet Pea's video. Well, Angel did some work on it as well. So shouts out to Angel and Sweet Pea for putting this together. Um, Let me get it in because I love it. Every time sometimes I just turn on the video just to watch the intro.
That's it.
No. You have to go inside and you find something that makes you happy, whatever that is, and then you just let it out.
Improving to greater than 6 miles on Friday morning.
Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer. Night breezes seem to whisper dream a little dream of me. Now, darling, but I feel still craving your kiss. Dream a little dreamer.
Yeah, I'm jamming. Dream a little dream of me, you know?
Yeah, you can't help but bob your head to that. That is definitely I love it. I enjoy listening to our theme song as we come into this our community beacon show, man. What's going on? What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Palm Beach Mike. I might change my name tomorrow, but today I'm Palm Beach Mike. Of
Let's
course.
go.
So Mike Seville, your real estate consultant. Community matters, people. And then that's why we're here each and every Friday, 6:30, so we can talk to the community. We can talk to our people and be that beacon of hope. And of course, alongside of me, you have the incomparable,
Yeah.
the inspirational life coach. You see it.
All right. All
You
right.
got the motivatorpreneur.
Yes, sir.
Don't forget to follow the TikTok. You got
Follow, click, like, follow,
you got
subscribe. Let's
you
go.
got Joe Simmons in the building, and brother, you are at the firehouse today,
Well,
right?
I'm I'm at work. We at work. Let's just move.
I want to highlight it because part of it is some part of it we're going to get into, but I definitely transparency as always. We letting people know exactly who we are. We're not hiding. We're not above anything. And the situation I want to let people know is that we're working through it. Like this is the level. Catch us now. Who was I talking to? I think it
Man, we just mentioned that in the pre-convo.
did we?
Yeah, we just mentioned that.
Yeah.
Catch me now.
Catch me while you can afford me is what I
Yeah,
tell
that's
people.
exactly what you said earlier. I was waiting for you to say that part.
While you
I
can
was
afford me.
inspired by it. Yeah.
It might come a time when well, I hopefully we'll still be doing this show, but
Yeah.
but it's probably not going to be as intimate. So get all the information you can while you can, because at some point in time, and I'm speaking it into existence. There's going to be so many comments. There's going to be so many people tuning in. There's going to be so many people looking for the guidance, and we're not going to be able to just because we're only one. We're just we're just one. We're two people, right?
Yeah. One-man band right here. Two-man band. That's it.
Band. We're building as we fly, but it's going to get so big to the point where we can't actually touch each and everybody that we would like to. So
But we'll
Excuse me.
take the time to get back with you. You know, you
I
just may
don't.
not be able to get that FaceTime like you get right now. You know,
Right.
someone throw up a comment, we throw it up on the screen right
Right.
now. That's what's
Right.
happening. But days to come, it may not happen that way, you
Right.
know. So,
Nah,
but
I
hey,
know.
you know what? There's somebody out there that might want that job too. We'll be
Right.
looking for you later.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing to be a blessing. How has your week been, brother? We're at the end of the week. What's been going on?
Busy. Beautiful week. Beautiful week. Beautiful week. Like I was telling you earlier, it just seems like the day is running into the night, you know, and, I'm doing my best to make sure I keep my sleep up, make sure I keep my sleep up because it's important. Listen,
Yeah.
y'all, I mean, I understand. I want to run the 18 hours, the 19 hours, but you got to get some rest and make sure the body is good, recharged, so that you can go ahead and do what you got to do, because this stuff that we're doing right here, right now, this is life changing, life augmenting. This is powerful. This is power. This is inspiring. This is a movement, right? And so it's important for us, but it's got to be important to you too. And so I think that's is part of what has inspired tonight, and the title of tonight, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we are getting grounded, and if you all missed it, please take a chance to go back. I think we have been on fire for the past month. I wonder since we started. I don't think we've had as far as I'm concerned, a bad show.
No.
But the last 2 weeks, of course, the brother Joe Simmons over there we were going over marital relations. And a part of the conversation of the marital relations was which is probably one of the most important parts of it to me was this light bulb moment was talking about the grounding, the prep work that needs to be done before you even meet that special someone. Work
Right.
should have been done. I mean, you're going to continue working, but it should have you should be laying that groundwork. You should be prepping to start building a foundation with someone else. So as we spoke about our show earlier this week, we thought that just period, we should be talking about getting grounded. Because what does that mean? Because we spoke about it in somewhat depth, but it can go. I mean, it can be a show all within itself in regards to the groundwork. So that's what we're here today to talk about, is about the getting grounded part. So this is just for life period. And you're not getting grounded just to find somebody.
No.
Yeah, it's not just to find somebody. You're getting grounded for yourself. You're getting grounded to figure out who you are. And I want to throw up the first thing that you wrote on the screen, but what do you have to say about the grounded before we officially get into it?
No, I mean, man, you're hitting on these things, hammerhead to nailhead, you know what I mean? And that's what it all comes down to. Listen, when it comes down to it, Mike, this is how we got where we are. It's just about finding ourselves in the midst of ourselves, in the midst of everything that's going on. And that is truly one of the greatest things that could ever happen to an individual. Now, some people are blessed out there. They just know who they are from the very beginning. Yeah. And I'm doing my best to teach my kids to understand exactly who they are and to accept that. But, the mind, the mind is something that's so strong and so powerful that the mind has the ability to create an individual, and it has the ability to mask an individual. And so you can actually grow up in a lie, and so as you are growing in a lie, you begin to walk that lie like it is reality. And that becomes a danger because lies tend to have some part of fear. Lies have a part of fear to them. And anything that has fear is going to be something that's going to take away from your ability to do anything or everything. You don't tell a lie except you're afraid of something, whether it's a consequence, or you're afraid of hurting somebody else's feelings or whatever you tell yourself. It's because of fear. Because if you have no fear whatsoever, you don't care what people say. You know, you're not that you're not concerned about the consequences of whatever it is that you're saying, but you know, when you weigh it out, it's more important for you to be honest. And so now you're living the true you. And I think that's important. So, you know, I think that you're hitting, you know, hammerhead to nailhead, you know, because I think that the first thing in this whole getting grounded, getting grounded or applying your groundwork in my eyesight is self-awareness. You
Yeah.
know, that's where it
So
is.
so let's talk about self-awareness. Um and I think well, let me think. Go ahead, brother. Speak on self-awareness because I just lost my thought.
I mean, self-awareness, right? So we're talking about being aware of who you are, and right. So for those y'all that were out here last week, and actually the week before that, when we really started to dig into the groundwork, that's what it was. You know, before you enter into a relationship, you know, you got to figure out who you are. So when we start talking about self-awareness as far as getting grounded, this is huge because you need to understand. I need to understand my own individuality, my personality. What makes Joel Simmons tick? What makes me fly off the handle? What makes me want to kneel down and pray? What makes me want to laugh? What makes me want to exuberantly laugh? You know how many of us, we don't even laugh like we truly laugh around everybody. It's like, you know, like we're just kind of playing with it. But the thing is like there is a part of us that is real. And when you get into that realness, then it's you that's coming out. You can deny it all you want, but that is you. And some people don't accept it. Like, okay, so before I know you got your thought together, but check
No,
this
no,
out.
go ahead.
Okay, so we watched this show in the fire department, you know. I can't remember the dude's name. It may come to me. There's three of them. One of them is Stilo. Stilo is on there, right? He always wears a brim on his head, and he has the controls. But it's called ridiculousness. That's what it is, right? And so there's a girl on there. I don't remember her name, you know, but there's a girl on there, and her laugh, you know, whenever she laughs, you know, people don't like her laugh. They talk about it, but it's like she's okay with herself. She's all right. She shows up every single show and she still goes ahead and she does her thing. And it's like, that's what it comes down to. Forget who likes me or likes the way I'm acting or whatever. If I'm being real to myself, then that's the true me showing up. And that's the beginning of being grounded.
1,000%. 1,000%. Who? So you mentioned Stilo. What was Stilo's whole? What was his spiel on the
So,
show?
so in ridiculousness, basically what it is it's a show like a big screen, right? They got a big screen and they show, you know, people acting like a fool, people riding skateboards and falling off their
Okay.
skateboards, people doing ridiculous things. And I could probably look it up real quick too, you know, to give you a little bit more about it. But anyway, the host ends up like setting up these reels, and Stilo's at the control, and he does the fast forward and the backwards
Okay.
and the
Okay.
play. And then the young lady on the side, you know, she's just there. Like, I mean, honestly, the show is like three friends just clowning together.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it. And everybody, this show is blowing up. You know, I see
Wow.
it every single shift. That's all. You know, but for us it's a good thing to watch because there's no politics. You know, it's just, you know, sometimes when the politics get out there, you know, people don't want to sit down and eat anymore.
One that, yeah, 1,000%. And we have a list of stuff to go over, but I it's almost like we got like 4 shows of stuff to go. When I'm looking at this list, now that I'm looking at it, so like with the self-awareness portion of it, what I'm seeing, because it's tough, most people want to fit in. Most people are seeking validation outside of themselves. And that's interesting that you spoke about it, because I'm looking at some of my notes that I took down for this show, and I said I must have been in an interesting mood when I wrote it, but it says most people don't like themselves, or they're not comfortable with themselves, and they're looking for things outwardly to make themselves validated inside. So it's tough for a person to become self-aware. And when I want to talk about the now, because now is so much different from before, especially with the invention of social media, and how social media, or these phones have taken over to a point where people tend to look and they're more aware of what's going on the outside of them. I don't have this, and we all know on social media most people put their best feet forward. Like you oft times don't see someone who what their life is truly like. We see that rain is coming down. We see the highlight reels of people's lives on it. So now you're comparing yourself and whatever you're going through, your real life, to someone's highlight reels. So when you're always comparing yourself, so comparison, that the comparison right there is going to kill any kind of self-worth that most people have. Because you can't, because no matter how decent your life may be, which more often than not, especially if you're living in America, if you're watching this from a handheld device that has service or is attached to some kind of Wi-Fi system, like, you're blessed to be able to have the time to even pay attention to what we have going on. So that's one thing that I want to bring up. But we're comparing our regular lives to people's highlight reels. So this just pushes that whole self-awareness piece back. And I think we're going to talk about it on the third slide that I'm looking at. But this just deters it. So at some point in time, you have to shut all that stuff down. Like, how can you, and I'm not telling people to cut off social media, although some people may need to.
Yeah.
Like some people may need to. Some people can't, like, you got to really think, like, a lot of people can't handle social media, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of people, the kids, that said, like, we can't handle social media. But social media aside, what that does is it delays the self-awareness. I think it helps to delay the self-awareness process, because I think one of the ways to get to self-awareness is that you need to actually be by yourself.
Yeah.
And most people can't sit with themselves. And that's why meditation is so powerful. I know, brother, you meditate every day. And I meditate, but to be able to sit in silence with yourself and be okay for any, it doesn't have to be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes. You know what I mean? At first, like, you start off with like a minute with yourself. You eventually want to get at least a consistent 5 minutes every day with yourself. Don't turn on the TV. Don't turn on social media. Don't pick up, a magazine, a book, whatever, just to sit with yourself for 5 minutes a day to kind of start to feel yourself and become aware of everything. You know what I mean? Like, aware of your emotions at that time. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you depressed? What kind of feelings are you having? How does your body feel? You know what I mean? Like, it's self-awareness is a huge piece to the getting grounded. And for me, like, it's like essentially being okay with yourself. And if you can start to become okay with yourself by yourself, now when you go out in the world, it's not, you're not, but well, hold on. I was about to come up with a Bible verse. What is it? He will be of the world, but not in the world. Is that
Right.
Like,
We're in the world, but not of the world.
Yeah, be not
Exactly.
of the world, but be in the world, but not of the world. So now you're not being dragged through these different things, because you know who you start to become aware of who you are. And the truth of the matter is that, and I can never forget this story. I was working at the Drug Abuse Foundation. I might have been 23, 24 years old, somewhere around that. And there was a lady, her name was Ann. Ann was, I think at the time, she might have been 40. Ann might have been 45 years old. And at 23, you think 45 is like it's over the hill. Like, you're like, oh man, this person is old. I'm just saying at 23, you think that. I'm so
Hey,
close to it
all
now.
y'all out there that's post 40s, all right? We still
Yeah,
got this, all
yeah,
right?
you got no 1,000% because what you start to realize as you get older is like, besides, I can't jump around like I used to jump around, and I don't even want to claim that because I'm still in pretty good shape. But what you start to realize, excuse me, let me get back to the story. So what she told me was, she's like, Mike, you may not understand it, but I'm 45 and I still don't know what kind of like where I want to go or who I want to be in life. And I'm looking at her like, you're 45 and you don't know what you want, like in my mind, in that 23-year-old mind, you would think that at 45 you would have it all figured out. You know what I mean? But because life can tend to happen, she was 45 at the time. I can almost imagine she had a child at like 23, 24. So now your whole life worth is in this child. Then if you're a wife, she may have been a wife. Anne was a wife, so now she's a wife to her husband. So that becomes her identity. Like all these things are happening because life starts to happen really quickly once you hit a certain age. So for some people it's 17, some people it's 18, some people they go through college kind of carefree. Then 22, boom, life happens. And so all these things happening, and here in this Western culture, we're like always going. We're always going, so we never have time to sit with ourselves. How many people do you know from the Western culture who say, man, I can't meditate. The way my brain works, I can't meditate. Well, that means that you need to meditate. You need to meditate more. You know what I mean? Because you have to be that one with yourself. But you get to a certain point in life, now we are 45, maybe at this age, your kids are starting to leave the household, and you still don't know who you are essentially inside. That might be part of this whole, there used to be that saying, that midlife crisis thing. Now you reach a certain age and you're like, I don't even know who I am. But you never essentially got this grounding part done correctly. Man, I'm babbling on, brother. Interject at any time.
No, I mean, I'm enjoying it, but I'll put this out there because you mentioned this early on in what you were saying. That thing about validation. Validation is huge. That's huge.
Right.
And then you left off with children. When you're talking about this 40-some-year-old woman who is kind of like just now getting it all together.
Right.
That's a real thing.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's
it's okay.
It's okay. Like I don't care if you're 65 and starting to get it together. As long as you start to get it together, that's my saying, another day, another way. Like as long as you start to put it together, it doesn't matter. It'd be nice, like you said, there's some people, and you kind of knew these kids in school. Like you kind of knew like some, middle school and high school, when you start to become aware of yourself, you start to see some kids that they were just aware of themselves. You ever seen that kid that was like in the eighth, ninth grade, and he already knew what he was going to be when he grew up, and actually ended up becoming that? You know what I mean? So he already knew his trajectory. He just, I just have a feeling like that's a beautiful thing, I think, anyways, for you to know who you already are. It skips out on a lot of the foolishness that you may get yourself into trying to figure out who you are, but it is what it is. But whether you're 20, whether you're 30, whether you're 40, 50, 60, it's never too late to kind of start to say, okay, boom, like this is me. You know what I mean? And start to love on yourself. Because now when you start to love yourself, you know what I mean? Like this, there's no stop, because you just if you already validating yourself and you're loving yourself, like there's nothing really most people can tell you. And that love that you have for yourself is going to be given outwardly. Because if you have love within you, people around you are going to start to feel that. And you really start to change the world once you start to love yourself. Because that in itself is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. 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 And that's another key thing right there, brother. Just when you start talking about that self-validation, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And it kind of bounces off of another topic in this whole thing, which is acceptance. Acceptance is a big thing, because once you become self-aware of who you are, you have to accept yourself. Yeah, it is what it is. If you're forgetful, you're forgetful.
Now you have to write it down.
Yeah, you have to. And see, so that's like part of it. Um, you know, self awareness helps you to move forward, but it does not. Um, it doesn't make you move forward.
Right.
You can't move forward simply because you have self awareness.
Right.
You have to start applying the next tactics, you know? And so, okay, so I'm a forgetful individual. Okay, so what do I do with that? If I choose to do nothing with it, I stay a forgetful individual, which means all the issues that I've had up until this day by being forgetful, I will continue to have because I've made no change. There's no change there, you know? Now, I might not need to be, I may not need validation by somebody else, so all teenagers out there that are not seeking validation, they're in their own world, you know that this message is for you, you know young ladies, you out there, you don't feel like you need validation from anybody. You got this. But then there's something that's going on in your life that's causing you to hit a brick wall. All right, you've got self-awareness. You got to accept some of these things, whatever they are, that's messing up your life or that's causing you to fall backwards, whatever it is, just something that's going on. You're lazy. Lots of lazy people out there. Ain't nothing wrong with being lazy if you know you're lazy and you start to accept it and then you start to build on it. I got a buddy of mine. He told me one day, he's a preacher, as a matter of fact. He told me one day, as a matter of fact, he preached it. He said, y'all lazy out there. And everybody just kind of like looked at him. He said, I know it because I know a lazy person when I see one because I'm lazy. He said, I'm lazy and I ain't afraid to share it. He said, so because I'm lazy, I do XYZ. Because he accepted that he was lazy. See, some of us, we don't accept the faults that we are walking in. So we just allow those faults to beat us up every single day. We're getting beat up by ourselves.
I remember we had a discussion a couple months ago. Remember I took that test, that Clifton strength test.
Yes.
And I said the entire time I thought I was empathetic. I was like, yeah, I'm working on this empathy part of it. And then we got on the phone and I said, brother, I took the test and empathy was the last one. Well, out of the 34, from 1 to 34, 1 being my highest strength, to the 34th one, which was my biggest weakness, essentially, out of the test, it was empathy. Yeah. So here I was going through life, or at least the last 5, because I thought I knew when I started life I wasn't empathetic, because I was, as far as I was concerned, like, listen, people got to get it how they live, like, like, hey, it's been a rough road for me. It's gonna be a rough road for you, that kind of deal. Like, hey, you got to get through it. Like, what you do? So when people came to me with their issues, I just be like, you're still alive, ain't you? So, yeah. but I said all that because I understood it then that empathy was a problem, right? So, but then I said, okay, well, I'm gonna work on this. So I started working on it, and I guess my way of working on it was, even though I still felt that way on the inside, I started asking more questions and acting concerned about certain things, or being more concerned than I probably actually was. But the way I'm concerned is I'm being concerned, but I'm still giving you solutions, which isn't exactly empathy, because I'm still just trying to get you to this point. Because that's my logical and analytical side taking over. Like, let's just come up with a solution, but I just need to say it more tactfully, because in my mind, like, that's being empathetic. But essentially, it's not being empathetic. I mean, hey, listen, you got that problem? You sure do. How do we get to the next? How do that essentially that's the mechanics of it. But I was covering it with this tactful way of coming about, in my mind anyways, this tactful way of approaching it. But more so than likely, most people who are actually empathetic are looking and saying, man, Mike just don't give a damn. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like Mike just is trying to get this person to the thing. He doesn't understand that there's this emotional blockage, or there's some, whatever kind of mental block this person has to get over that hump, because it's a weakness of mine. However, now that I was lying to myself saying I am being empathetic. Like, I am being this thing. So empathy is now in my mind, because empathy is now one of my strengths when it really wasn't. And it took this thing to bring it out of me, saying like, Mike, you're not really, this is your weakness. I ain't saying that I'm the coldest person, but this is a weakness of yours. Matter of fact, it's the biggest weakness that you have. So now, so now when I approach the situation, I have to take extra care and actually care and say and tell myself, don't go straight to the solutions. Don't even attempt to do it. Like, I have to overly with the person that I know, because they're not just that, most people aren't in the space, right? So I have to overly get to a point where it's just like, just listening. That's what I need to do. Like, when Joel's the empathizer, so when Joel is having that conversation, he's listening, and in real time, he's you're poking it, like you're getting to the core of the issue. My empathy muscle doesn't work that way. My empathy muscle is like, okay, just listen, don't say nothing. Say something tomorrow. Right when the sting isn't quite, when it's not gonna sting quite as hard. When it kind of does, it's not this big thing that person is feeling. It's just like, just shut up. That's how I know. And when I'm not shutting up, that's when I know I'm not being empathetic, because I'm talking. So you just you say encouraging words. Hey, yeah, listen, I understand. Because I do. I understand what you're going through, man. That's tough. Listen, excellent. I'll talk to you tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, I'll talk to you tomorrow after I process this. I got to process it, and then I can come back. And like I said, this thing is no longer there. And then I can have that conversation with you, like, yes, let's figure out a way to get you out of this situation, whatever the situation may be. But initially, most people, from me anyways, from you, they want to hear you talk, brother. But for me, they just, I know I need to just not say anything to anybody right then and there, because for the most part, they're just not at that space. The way that they work is not the way I work is not necessarily how they work. But, getting back to the point of the matter is I'm aware of that. But when I initially started it, which is key, this is key. And I hope you all get this, because I'm dropping this gem right now. And I hope you all caught it when I was speaking about it, but I want to make it plain. Is that initially when I figured out the empathy, because I figured out empathy wasn't my strong point, I tried to work on it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I got those results myself, where in my mind, so this is me lying to myself, because I'm working on it by myself. And we know, what's the saying? Your best thinking got you to where you were. You know what I mean? Like, your best thinking got you to the place that you were. So I'm working it on myself, as opposed to saying, going and getting this actual test and working with a coach, where this coach is saying, Mike, this is your worst thing. I wouldn't necessarily advise you, go intensively working on being an empathetic person. I would advise that you, in the moment that you sense it, logically, empathy is needed, that you kind of don't, you kind of tread lightly, don't necessarily be the first one to give out solutions and whatever. Just tread lightly, because that person may not, because even what you're saying may be necessarily true. It could be this could be the best solution for a person, right? But they're not there. You know what I mean? They're not at that point. They're not ready for that. They're not accepting of whatever truth it is that you have for them. So no matter how much, because I got a bunch of sayings for you guys tonight. I'm going to be the quote master tonight. People don't care about, what is it? People don't want to hear about what you have to say unless you care. What is it? Unless they know that you care. People want to know that you care first before they listen. I don't know. I butchered the quote, but essentially that's it. Like the people want to know that you care, and people don't think you care when you're just trying to rush them through a situation or a
Yeah.
strategy. Yeah, they want to know that you care first, and then you can go through that solution. What say you, bro?
Yeah. I mean, that's it right there. You know, I mean, and I'm glad you you stopped and paused on that one bit about the knowledge, because, I wanted to bring that up too. But the thing about it is, like, there's an old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, you
Mhm.
know? So, you being so analytical and, having figured out how to make the horse drink, you know, you understand it's not you that brings the horse to the water.
Right. Right. Not at all.
So somebody else need to bring the horse to the water. But once he gets to the water, you have the techniques to get him to drink.
But you
And
got to
so
be thirsty. They got to be thirsty.
they do got to be thirsty, but then there's techniques, there's
Right.
like, I mean, when we start talking about that, I understand that I'm changing to some degree that old fashioned quote. But listen, look at all these dog whisperers and animal whisperers and stuff like that. And they get these out, you got an owner that's been with dogs all their life. They get up there, they're like, I've been with this dog, but I just can't seem to make them do one thing, and I don't know, maybe it's just TV. Maybe that dog whisperer has been working with that dog for 3 months, and they get on TV and they pretend like it just happened in seconds. But these dog whisperers just get up there and they be like, psh, 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 and then the dog will sit. And the owners in the background, like, how'd you make them do that? Like, oh, listen, you got to do X, Y, Z, But I tend to favor that type of way of thought,
Right.
because I believe that there are people that are excellent at everything, or at least at something.
Right.
And if you find the individual that is excellent at the thing that you are not excellent at, then you can then be, and you mentioned it, coached on how to be better.
Right.
So, after going from acceptance, now you know what it is that you're not good at, working on groundworks, y'all. We still talking about groundworks, grounding yourself. You know what you're good at, you know what you're not good at, and you finally come to the acceptance part. At that point in time, let's just go ahead and move right into knowledge. You got to find the knowledge. I think Mike, you was talking about how what got you to today. So then you can't really process any further beyond that without gaining the knowledge of how to get beyond that. So you got a great jump shot. That's good. But until someone teaches you, some footwork, then your jump shot is stagnant wherever it is. You out there playing basketball and you can't get a jump shot off. Why? Because the defense keeps on stealing the ball while you trying to dribble. Your jump shot is no good if you ain't got no handwork, if you ain't got no footwork. Your jump shot is no good, unless somebody can position you and throw you the ball while you wide open.
Oh,
It's
my
no
God.
good. So you need that individual to help coach you into whatever it is. You need to read that book. You need to dedicate yourself to that meditation, and then you need to find that information. Those that are wise will seek unto them. Those that are of understanding will seek unto wise counsel.
Listen, I'm of the school of thought that if you have a great jump shot, you don't necessarily need the good footwork. Because the basketball is a team sport. Life should be a team sport. Life should be a team sport. Oh my gosh, I had a phone call right prior to this meeting, and this guy, he grew up. I can't remember him. Hopefully he'll add me. I told him to add me on Facebook, but he grew up with my brother, so he saw an ad that I put out on Facebook for a property. And so he reached out to one of my aunts, and then my aunt gave him my phone number, and he gave me a call. Me and him, he lived on the same street that I lived on. I was there 10 years earlier, so I'm more of a vet of the street. That's my street. I'm probably the longest person who's lived on there the longest. But essentially, what he said was, he said he looked at the property, said, "Yeah." So he asked me how much it cost. I told him how much it cost. I gave him a quick breakdown, etc. And he said, "You know what?" He said, "I got to go back to my family." He said, "Because the way that we move is that we buy this property all together."
Hmm.
And then he said that's just the way our family moves, and that goes back to the point of it being a team sport, life being a team sport. Because if you have Joel, who is Magic Johnson or LeBron James, able to get the ball to that great jump shooter, and Joel's, imagine how much easier life would have been for Jordan if he had a Magic Johnson. He doesn't have to work as hard. I'm glad he did work as hard. He ended up being the greatest player. But if you got someone, all you got to do is stand in that position. Jordan has Steve Kerr. I don't know if you all remember Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr was that jump shooter. So Jordan drove to the hole. Steve Kerr stood out there to spot up for the three-pointer. And if Jordan decided not to dunk on somebody, and I'm not a big Jordan fan either, but he is one of the greatest. He gave that ball to Steve Kerr, who was right there to shoot the ball. Steve Kerr wasn't an excellent athlete. Steve Kerr would never have ended up leading a team to the championship. He did coach a team to the championship, but as a player, he would never have led a team to the championship. But he had a position. He was a great three-point shooter. Get the ball to Kerr, and I used to remember because they used to play my team in the Eastern Conference Division, the Magic, and every time Jordan drove to the hole, we're in the playoffs, he'd kick it out to Steve Kerr. I would almost cry because you knew the ball, because Jordan drew the defenders and Steve Kerr worked on his three-point shot. You get it to him. He didn't need to do all that. He didn't need to be Curry. He needed to stand in his position and shoot that shot. And that's what he perfected. He perfected that shot because Jordan said, "You got one job. Stand right here. And I'm gonna make, and if I need to, I will get the ball to you. But if I pass it to you, you better make it." You know what I mean? So that's what he had to practice on. So like for me, if so just for some real life example, if someone comes to me and needs some kind of help, and it's an empathetic moment, I'm calling Joel. "Hey Joel, can you have this conversation with this person right now?" You know what I mean? Eventually, when it gets back to the tactical part of buying real estate or whatever the case may be, then I can help him at that point in time. But at this point in time, this person needs this. Because and then when Joe does what he does and he gives that, and then this person comes back to me, it makes my job that much easier. I don't have to be crazy empathetic. I have to be able to identify when an empathetic situation is needed. And then I have someone who is a professional and the best at what he does. And then there's that tag team. And everybody comes out of that equation the better. So just the point at the hand was that life is a team sport. Recognize what you have, understand the knowledge that's given to you. But at the same point in time, I don't think like there's, at this point in time in my life, I would have to spend years under some tutelage to have that type of empathy that Joel has for people, because it's a deep, deep empathy. But why would I even need to do it if this guy's on my team? I can just pass him the ball. For him to get
and I really feel like that's a part of that knowledge,
right?
That's that knowledge set, because at that point in time, when you realize that you may not need any more of whatever that is, or you may just need to be aware of it, or you may need to know how to work with it or work around it. You don't need to have every single attribute. You don't have to have every attribute. We're just not made that way. And like you said, there's a scripture says when every joint supplieth, and I love that scripture, because the thing about it is, like, when every joint supplieth, the body grows itself in love. And you started this thing off with love, talking about love, but we have the ability to grow because we can borrow and we can, commingle, and we can groom one another, and we can grow with one another. And quite honestly, a person that's not empathetic, that is around someone who is going to start to have more empathetic tendencies, because you are like those that you surround yourself. or that surround
I
you,
agree.
you know? So some of that is going to just move over into your life, you know? And if you have that type of coach, it's just going to, you're going to absorb some of that to be able to use it at a later time. But I'm with you on that point that you made earlier in this convo when you were just talking about, you know, at one point in time, you thought you were such and such, and it was just like living a lie. You know, it's like, I can't do that, you know?
Yeah. I wasn't living a lie. I was shocked.
Yeah, it was shocking.
I was shocking. So that's the knowledge portion of it, and I think you don't necessarily, like Joe said, you don't have to necessarily be proficient in it. Just be competent enough to recognize it.
Competence.
Yeah, be competent enough to recognize it. And I think, and now we're going into the next portion of it, because man, this is some good stuff. I think, brother, you got internationalism, so I don't know if we're ready for that part of it.
Intentionalism. But
Is
I
that what
think
it was?
that's what it should have been.
Okay.
Should have been intentionalism, you know.
Well, let me-
But the thing is like we should be going into purpose anyway,
Okay.
you know, because at that point in time, you know, you have self-awareness, you've accepted who you are, you've gained knowledge about who you are and what you're not, and how to apply yourself as yourself, you know. So this helps you to develop your purpose, you know. And maybe not all of your purpose is going to rain down on you, you know, or shine down on you, but your purpose should be starting to bubble up. You should have something, and that leads directly into intentionalism, you know.
Right. Let's stay on purpose. Well, I think a whole show should be dedicated to purpose, and
Purpose is deep.
I think purpose and people are starting to find their purpose, but once again, you need to start to remember the precursors to it. This is why you haven't found your purpose. Listen to Uncle Mike, people. This is why you haven't found your purpose. That might be the new name instead of Palm Beach Mike. There's no self-awareness there. You're not good with yourself. You're not accepting of yourself. So you have no self-awareness. You have no acceptance of yourself. You're constantly looking for validation from people. You understand what I mean? You don't have the knowledge, but then you hear this buzzword of purpose, and all of a sudden it's just like, I gotta find my purpose. I gotta find my purpose. So how do you do that? You can go about looking for your purpose and be very inefficient at it. Like you could be so inefficient at trying to figure out what your purpose is, and you can go because essentially you're just gonna be throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. Like you're feeling around with a blindfold on because you're not even self-aware. So now you're gonna try a bunch of things, and the thing is that people don't understand, like, we really don't have time like that. You really don't have time like that. So you'll try a bunch of different things and head in a bunch of different directions and end up nowhere or end up drained and still not know what your purpose is. And then for most people, I think you just give up. You just give up and say, this is the way life is supposed to be. But that's because you've burned yourself trying to find you're trying to do something, but you're skipping steps, right? So this being getting grounded for growth, you cannot, like, there's steps that need to be taken, and that self-awareness, figuring out who you are, being okay with who you are, being able to sit in a room by yourself, quiet, and not want to get angry about how you got to where you got in life. You know, what did my parents do? My parents didn't raise me right, or this happened to me at this point in time, or that happened to me at that point in time, and you get so frustrated with that. That's not it. You're not being self-aware, because for everything in life happens for a reason. So your purpose, your part of this is to figure out what that reason is. That's this whole self-awareness portion of it. You can't just skip straight to purpose. I'm gonna tell you what else happens when you try to skip straight to purpose. You start to model other people and their purpose because they found their purpose. Because oftentimes when you meet someone that's in their purpose, they have this thing about them that draws you in. Like, you're like, wow, this dude is just awesome. I want to be just like this person. This dude is a dolphin trainer. You can't swim. Do not, you know, you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of thing because a person who's in their purpose, they become leaders. You know, they become leaders. Especially once they start getting that knowledge portion of it. You know, they got their knowledge thing right. So now they're leaders. People are following. Like you get caught up in this whirlwind of this person, and you eventually start following this person down this path. 2, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years goes by. All of a sudden, 3, 4 years in, you're just like, this wasn't it. Now you got to go back. Now you're going back, and you might continue to think it's perfect. But if you start from that beginning, that self-awareness portion part of it, you can meet people who are living in their purpose, and you say, "Man, that's cool. Let me add this person to my network."
Yeah.
Let me add this person to my network. I can use him for what you man. The way that you put up that drywall, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that as a resource, man. You're an accountant. You know all this stuff. You'll see, and you enjoy this. You smiling when you're in there doing taxes and putting these numbers together and looking up tax code. Oh yeah. I need to put this down. Don't all of a sudden, but once again, if you don't have that self-awareness, you're gonna see that guy looking up that tax code and be like, I could do that tax. People do that to me with real estate. People do that. Now that I'm thinking about it, people do that to me all the time in real estate. They'll see me and then I'll get to talking like, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'll be just reading off this stuff that I find interesting. You know what I mean? Like there's some conventions I go to and these people are and I'm just in there just like, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah.
This information is great. And so people say, hey, is it hard to be a realtor? You know what I mean? I think I'm going to take that real estate test because it's not hard. To get into real estate, would you take your 40-hour class or something, something like that, your 40 or 60-hour class. I did it online, and then you take your state exam, etc. And people think like, okay, yeah, well, Mike's doing it, and he makes it seem cool and okay, so I'll do it because I'm actually excited about it. We're not talking about and we spoke about this earlier. We're not talking about the cold calling sessions. We're not talking about the conversion sessions. We're not talking about like a bunch of different things that come along with doing it, which isn't that exciting, even to me. So you get to be, now you don't want to become a real estate agent because you seen Mike become a real estate agent. And then you're saying, I can do this. And I'm not saying you can't, because you can. Are you going to enjoy it? Is this a part of your purpose? Because you can easily get caught up into it, but be miserable in whatever it is, because that might not necessarily be what you were put on earth to do. Or you can use it, which I think a lot of people need to do. You can use it as a means to an end. I need to accumulate X amount of money to start funding my purpose. So while I'm in here, because I do believe you need to make money, so you can make some money. You may not necessarily enjoy it, but you have an expiration date on it. I need to accumulate this in 5 years, because if I don't do this in 5 years, I'm going to end up with like some of these other people, drunk, want to drink, just don't want to drink to get through the night, to go to sleep. You start to use all these different escapism tactics and end up with no money, no nothing, depressed, divorced, whatever the case may be, because you're not, because you didn't use it for what it was supposed to be. But
that's deep.
I digress. I digress
deep.
On the purpose thing. Purpose is important. Please lay the groundwork.
Yeah. Purpose is very close to passion.
Yeah.
Very close to passion. Those two run hand in hand.
How would you think that someone can identify when they have found their purpose? Like, what are some indicators?
I think first, before we even go into that, answering that question, got to go back to that modeling, just like earlier when you was talking about validation. Right. So, at a point in time where you're going through your self-awareness, you're looking for validation from other people. You got to drop that validation off. You got to leave that alone. You got to let validation go, because validation is not going to give you self-awareness. Self-awareness comes from the inside. You got to search yourself, And now we're talking about modeling. you know. Uh, Even like what we're doing right here. I mean, people don't know how much time we put into this. What we were talking about the other day, Mike, I was talking to you. I was like, Mike, you know what I'm doing with this TikTok? You know, I mean, it's taking me almost 6 hours to get one video off. And then you got it. And you like, sorry, cracking up, man, because you're like, I talked to Elijah. He was like, 6 hours. You know, but I enjoy doing it.
Right.
I enjoy doing it, you know? And so for me, putting that 6 hours in was worth it to me,
Right.
you know? Now, for me to be able to do the other things that I need to do, it was difficult because, you know, I enjoyed the reading part, you know, writing, you know, finishing up this book, and I'm already looking towards another book, you know, as well as I'm looking in this next month to start my YouTube channel up. You know, got all the supplies, you know, just
Yeah.
$1,500 worth of supplies just showed up
Let's
at the
talk. Let's
house.
talk about that mic over there. That you're stunting on me with the mic right now, but
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah, yeah.
you
So
sound good. You sound good.
appreciate it. You know, but all of these things, that's like what you were talking about earlier when it came down to the cold calling. You know, people want to jump into something. Now, for me, I said purpose and passion go hand in hand. For me, it was when I did what I was doing and I was like, you know, like eureka, like, man, this is it.
Right.
I got it, you know. And there's this feeling on the inside, like every single thing in the world just stopped, and this is it. I found it, you know. It's like the one scripture said, when a man finds a good thing, well, say when a man finds a treasure or land as a treasure, he goes and sells all that he has,
Oh
and then
yeah.
he runs out and he purchases that land. He purchases that and keeps it to himself. So when you find your purpose, it's when you are willing to give up everything in your life to take hold of whatever that is, because it drives you so much that you almost feel as if doing without it makes you less of an individual. This is purpose, something that you're willing to live for, something that you're willing to give for, possibly even something that you're willing to die in or for. Purpose. And that's what I mean by it closely is intertwined with passion, you know. And maybe one day we'll take a deeper dive into how those two are split, you know, or how those two really come together. But purpose is deep because I also think that purpose doesn't always. Hold on, Mike. Let me let you get on there for a minute.
Yeah. So we spoke about the brother is working. So purpose is important, people. Like so, but once again, going back to it, is finding out the groundwork that needs to be done in order for you to reach that purpose. And I think the next thing that we kind of were getting into after we went towards purpose was being intentionalism. I thought it was internationalism. That's what he sent to me. And I want him to explain what it is, but the point of being intentional with what you do, and I kind of, and this might need to have went at the beginning, right? We often wake up every day. Some people, not me. I try not to, but we get in the habit of just allowing the world to dictate to us what it is that what's supposed to happen to us for the day. We're so used to getting instructions and moving about, but and having this, whatever you want to call him. You might be your supervisor, might be your boss, heck, it might be your wife, it might still be your mother or somebody else who's giving you instructions on how your day goes and what it is that you need to do, as opposed to you putting that intention out from the beginning. Most of us need to, and I'm hoping you all are doing this. most of us need to start putting our intentions out. I would say go to sleep with an intention for the next day. That this is the thing. One of the things that you can do for some people, if you're especially if you're just starting out on your purpose, or you don't know your purpose, is start to put these intentions out. Like and I was a big, I wouldn't say I was a proponent against it, but I just didn't do it. And it probably was just being lazy or just feeling like I didn't need to do it. I was powerful enough that I didn't need to do it. But I started seeing when I started doing it, my results started to be so much better. And this is writing things down. Writing things down. So I start to write down my intentions from the beginning. Like in the morning, I'm writing down these intentions. I just happened to purchase a notebook. This came from Danny Morell. If you check him out, Journey to Growth. I wish I could leave you guys with the thing, but if you look up Danny Morell and Journey, you can look up this book that they have, this journal that they have, and start journaling things. And you don't even need this book. You can start journaling stuff, but essentially start journaling like your intentions for the day. And it doesn't have to be a wide variety of things. We need like day-to-day goals. So like for today, you can easily say, are you back, brother?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Next one of those go off, though, I'm out.
Okay, no problem. So we're reaching about an hour anyway, so we can cut it shortly. But just get into the intentional part. Like I think
Good, you there?
I don't know. Were you able to hear me or no?
No.
Okay.
No, I had to break away.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm essentially saying how people need to start writing, because one of the things that I didn't do, and this is like recent. Like I'm telling you, people, it doesn't matter when you start, as long as you start. So one of the things I did, because I had to start doing, was start to write down. The brother talked about Habakkuk. What is it? Habakkuk. What's the verse? 2:2. Make it plain. Write it down and make it plain. So my intentions aren't this whirlwind, and it doesn't have to be for when I start out in the morning. I endeavor to get 3 things done a day, and then 3 things done across the week. That is it. If I get these 3 things done for the day, that's a win, because you're either winning or you're losing. Things that get things that get measured get improved.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah, you're right, because it's like life. We can make life very simple. It's only our emotions. Our emotions start to get into it. We're having these emotional experiences, etc. But you either win or you lose the day. But we don't know. We don't even know how to keep the score. So this is how I keep my score: 3 things for the day, 3 things for the week. So that way, at the end of the day, when I can think back, do introspection, because I think most of us do it, especially as men. We're thinking back on what happened throughout the day, right? So you're going to do it anyways. So for us simply to have 3 things done, and now we can just go in that book. Hey, Mike, did you make this phone call? Did you do this? Did you do that thing? Yes. I won. And you go, and I'm gonna tell you how you sleep. You sleep good. But when you go through your things, say, Mike, did you make that phone call? No. But you did these other 2 things, but you didn't do this one thing. Like, you have grace on yourself, but hey, you ain't win today because you didn't get this 3rd thing done. Tomorrow's another day. God give us God give us, allow us to get to the next day, and then we'll have it as such. But it's very simple and it's not overwhelming. So what I'm telling people is, don't put 1,000 things down on a piece of paper, saying that you need to get it done. Because most of these things and I'm in real estate, I'm going to keep saying it. Most things in real estate aren't emergencies. A lot of these things are planned out. So as long as you stick to your processes and your script, all these things will work out. Now you have clients like Joel that might be in the background, like, oh my God, Mike is gonna make us lose this house because he didn't do X, X, and O. Me being a professional, I come back to Joel. I say, Joel, and Joel texted me at 2:00 in the morning saying, Mike, I don't think you remember to write this thing down, or whatever the case may be. because I get it, but as long as I'm keeping these things here in this notebook, saying, okay, well, tomorrow, Joe, I'll make sure that that gets taken care of. Boom, that's being written down on this thing. So there's 3 things for the day. Then I have my long term on Friday or Saturday, whenever your week ends. You have your thing on, let's say Friday, because most people your week ends on Friday, and even for me, Friday kind of feels like the end of the week, although I work during the weekends. So you got their Friday. Did this happen? So you made it. I made all these phone calls because normally, if you do everything those 3 things a day, your Friday goal is going to already be completed because you were moving that ball forward. The point being is it was being intentional. It's not just going throughout the day and just saying, "Oh, these things are going to happen to me." One thing, I'm gonna go back to real estate. Most agents in real estate, I think the average agent makes $30,000 in real estate. It's like $30,000. That's not a lot of money, considering that the average commission check is $8,000. If the average commission check is $8,000, that means that the average realtor is only doing 4 deals a year. That's not good. You got 365 days in a year. You should be doing more. You should be doing that in a month, right? Technically. If I'm not making these calls and being intentional about blocking off this time, these 2-3 hours to make these calls, and I'm just waiting on someone to call me, I'm waiting on a friend or family or somebody just to be like, I want to buy a house or whatever, and you'll get those, right? But you don't want to base your life on that. Like what is it? A broken clock is right twice a day, right? You don't want to base your life on being a broken clock. You don't want to base your life on just picking up the scraps. You want to become intentional with what it is that you have going on in life. This is a part of it. And I know we want to get into the groundwork. So now you want to be intentional with where you want to be in life. So you don't figure out your purpose. Cool. You want to be the best, I don't know, garbage man in the world. I don't know, whatever the case may be. You want to be the best at this, right? It's not just going to happen. It's not just going to happen. You're going to have to study this morning from, 5 to 7. I want to be listening to music in the gym. I want to be on the treadmill or the elliptical. I want to listen to music. It gets me hyped for the workday. I want to listen to music while I'm warming up. But I know I need to be taking in this information because I want to be the best listing agent in my area. So I need to be intentional about this information because me being the best listing agent is not just going to happen by happenstance. It's going to happen. This type of stuff is going to happen by me being intentional about what I take in. And brother, go ahead, brother, because I know I want to hear your thoughts on this intentionalism while we got you.
No, man, I think you're running with it. That's deep. That's deep, man. I don't want to cut in. Keep going. Keep going.
Right. I mean, and it's coming, and I'm coming to a close with it. But it's just the fact of just being intentional. It goes so deep as like you got to look at people, right? I remember walking around. I said, most people are just waiting to react to something. You reacting to a friend, you gonna lay on your bed or something as a real estate agent and wait till somebody calls you. You know what I mean? Or you're gonna go out and you're just gonna react to whatever stimulus is put out there in the thing. You're not being on your purpose. That's number one. Being on your purpose means that you're intentional. That means that when someone bumps you in the hood, you're not worried about, this person bumped me. I got to do something. You're worried about, okay, cool. Excuse me. I got somewhere to go. I got somewhere to go. I got somewhere to be because if once I reach to my destination, I need to perform whatever I need to perform. I need to take in what I need to take in, and then I'm on to the next thing. And when I'm done with all that, I can feel good about where I'm headed. A lot of people ain't getting good sleep at night because they don't know what they did the entire day. A lot of people, you don't know what you did. You didn't, so you can't say you left it all on the floor. You're waking up tomorrow and you're in the same position you were in yesterday because you don't even know what you have. There's no intentions in your life. You just walking around just like it's gonna happen to me. Life is gonna happen to me. Life happens, but it may not happen the way that you want it to happen to you. You know what I mean? People are going to use you for whatever it is that they have to get to where they need to get to going. Be intentional about it, man. Be intentional about becoming your best self, whatever that is. And while you're looking for your purpose, if you haven't found your purpose, or if you have found your purpose, God bless you. Beautiful thing. Start working towards it. Who do you be intentional about who you're around, who you're spending your time with, how much time you're spending with these people. What exactly are you all talking about? That way, when you leave, you can do an actual audit of the time spent and saying, is this worth me doing this again? And for how long or not? A lot of people are upset about certain, you know, I'm all about doing these internet courses. But if you spend $150 on a course and you're not intentional about whatever you don't have any intentions for it, you just lost $150. And this could have been the best course in the world. You could spend $10,000 on a course, $20,000, $30,000. I've seen courses that were $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. You could spend that money, but if you have no intentions for it, you just lost $40,000. Because there are a bunch of people who spent $10,000, you know, plenty of money on courses, don't really have any intention for it. They don't really take it seriously, and you got everything in your hands. You got everything that you need to be as successful as you want to be in life. My last thing about intentions. When I go online and I'm going through social media, or I'm watching my YouTube videos, whatever they may be, I have an intention as to why I'm there. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm human. So sometimes I might slide off into down a rabbit hole going through some stuff. But I can bring myself back because I have the intention of saying, okay, cool. So one of the things I ended up doing, for me, even so I slide less into a rabbit hole, is I started unfollowing and muting people. Because I noticed that, I had to be intentional about going into the people who I follow and the people who I contents that I'm, you know, following, whatever the case may be, and I had to be intentional about saying, yeah, I don't need this person. I don't need that person. How did I figure out whether I needed that person or I didn't need that person? Is if I have to think about liking them. If I got to think twice about liking something that you posted, I probably don't need to be following you. If it doesn't look, if in my mind it doesn't fit my brand for me to like what you posted, then I probably don't need to be consuming your content. It's just too much information. It's too much stuff. But I go on there. I'm intentional about what I'm doing. I'm intentional about what I'm going on there for. I'm looking at content to see what is going on with the market or what's going on within certain platforms, so that I can go back to my assistant and say, listen, let's start making videos like this. Or I can go to myself and say, Mike, you need to make a video like this, because people are consuming this kind of content and you need to get your information out. So I hope that made sense to you, a lot of you people, in regards to being intentional or intentionalism and how I view it, because it's important. If you want to move that needle, you got to be intentional. Most people don't become rich by mistake. You don't get free by mistake. You don't just all of a sudden walk off of the plantation. You know what I mean? You got a plan. I hope you got a plan, because you're going to find yourself right back to where you were eventually. You know, you might have some luck, but if you can't document it and the process of it, you're going to be right back to where you started. Trust me. I tried it. I tried to wing it. I tried to go along with what was going on, right?
Deep right there.
I tried to wing it. Go ahead, brother. I'm done. God bless.
Was deep. That was deep right there. That was it. You know, yeah. I mean, if you out there thinking that it's just, you know, by chance you made something happen and you think it's just going to happen again and again, it ain't like that. Yeah. Even people that win the lotto got to go play.
You got to play.
Yeah, you got to play. You don't play, you can't win. You know what I mean? So it's just like, that's the way it is. And I think it was beautiful how you just kind of rolled up all of those things, being self-aware. You know, just being self-aware, because once you're self-aware, you said, you know, you start talking about, if it doesn't fit my brand, You don't know what your brand is if you ain't self-aware.
Yep.
You don't know who you are. So
Yep.
what is your brand? I don't know. Whatever makes me laugh. Lots of things make people laugh.
Ridiculousness, I'm sure, makes people laugh.
That ain't my brand. I don't watch it at home, but they turn it on here
No,
at
no,
the house.
I'm just
And
saying that. So
no,
now you want to be ridiculous,
yeah,
First of all, yeah,
yeah. So I mean, but for me, it's good here
right,
because, and we intentionally put on ridiculousness because
intentional,
it keeps us from having those conversations that tend to divide people. Not that we're afraid to have some tough conversations, but been around a lot of people, and we know that some of these conversations can really be detrimental to relationships. So why would I do something that's going to be detrimental to the relationship that I enjoy having? No, let's not do that. Let's not allow somebody else to enter into our space, our lives, that can then pose these questions or these concerns that cause us to have disagreements that go down, like you said, Mike, the rabbit hole.
yeah.
I'm the same way. Because I have found a way of working in the TikTok world, and people are like, bro, come on, man, that's for children. That's for children. I'm like, listen, no, because you know,
The brother speaking on TikTok, Elijah gave me a bet recently to say, well, not a bet. He issued a challenge to say that he would get to 1,000 TikTok followers before I can. So it's challenge accepted. So I don't
okay,
know exactly.
where's he at?
He's at 400 and something.
When did he start?
Oh man, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. When did I get on that phone? I'm assuming when I got on the phone, so that had to be April.
Okay, well, tell Elijah, tell him that I'm approaching 500 right now,
I was,
and I started last month.
I would
So
tell him.
I don't care what he said about my 6 hours. And by the way, I didn't move down to about a half hour to 5 minutes.
Yeah,
You know,
you rolling now. You rolling. You're rolling.
but like I was saying, it was an interruption that came through, so I appreciate it. But anyway, like I was saying, I got like Gary V, The Rock. I got what's his name? Kevin. What's The Rock's buddy? Kevin.
Hart.
The comedian.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah, Hart. I got Kevin Hart. I got guys like that. That I got. There's some other people that I follow too. That was just friends. But I got these people that and I got like motivational speaking and stuff like that. So when my stuff comes up, if for some reason I'm actually looking at somebody else's content, then that's what pops up. And if anybody else's stuff comes up, I tell them people real quick, clear, catch. I clear it. Everything gone. I
Right.
dump everything because I don't want to be out there, and I'm very intentional about it. My objective is to help people with my TikTok. There's a whole lot of people out there that could use this type of conversation, especially young people that aren't getting this type of knowledge.
Right.
They're not getting what we're
1000%.
talking about. And you know what,
1000%.
Mike? They ain't looking for this YouTube show, that we are presenting. They ain't looking for this. This is the people that are our age, in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, and maybe even in their 50s are looking for what we got going on right here. And as we grow, of course, more people will be looking for it. But on TikTok world, man, there's an influence there for teenagers. And man, talking about groundworks, we got to get this type of stuff in there early because these children are making these decisions, and they're making them early. I mean, we still got too many children that are having children before they even finish high school that are dropping out. That's not living life intentionally. That's modeling somebody else's life. I did that too when I was a kid. I didn't know. I just wanted to break away from the household. My mother was doing all that she possibly could to get me out of the projects and to get this type of ghetto-ish type of mentality that I had. You know, and I feel like I can say that with it is what it is. That's how I grew up. That's where I grew up. You know, Alexandria, Virginia, Gum Springs Apartments. Y'all know what it is. If there's anybody out there from Alexandria, Virginia, Gum Springs Apartments, you know, you with me on that one. You know, and that's how we grew up. You know, it just was a way of life. You know, and to get that type of mindset out, because everybody is thinking we ain't never gonna make it out here except for in a pine box or inside the back of a paddy wagon. You know, and my mama didn't want that for me. So my mother worked 3 jobs, you know, and sometimes she'll work a job that was 3 hours away. I'll never forget one day I was sitting in the back of my mom's car, and, you know, I was just quiet as a church mouse, just sitting back there. And, you know, next thing you know, we in a whole nother city, maybe 2 or 3 cities gone. I have no idea. Maybe my mom was having a stressful day. I did not go to school that day because we had driven so many hours to get to her job that when she finally looked back and realized she didn't drop me off at school, I just stayed with her at work.
Oh wow.
That was the end of that. I mean,
Right.
you know, it was too late. You know, leaving at 6 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, and then just get there at 8 o'clock, and it was a tight schedule. But there's mamas and dads that are doing that right now, and you have to, you know, see self-awareness. You got to know who you are. Then after that, you got to accept who you are. Then after that, you have to gain knowledge about what you are, what you can do, how you do it, all these different types of things. And then after that, you know, now we're starting to talk about how we're going to develop ourselves into this new creature. Okay, you're finding your purpose. And now everything that Mike was just talking about, that intentional lifestyle, you start to write things down like, okay, this is my goal. This is my goal. This is my goal. This, and not just that, y'all, prioritize. So what if you come up with a list of 20 things that you want to do today? Take them 3 things that are very important and you prioritize them. I talk to people about prioritization all the time because people don't know how to prioritize. You
Yeah.
know, they go down their list, you know, they got feed the dog on there. Yeah, that's a priority. Then they got, you know, make sure they read a book. Yeah, that's a priority. They got make sure they go to a bank. Yeah, that's a priority. They got all these different things. And then at the end of the day, they fed the dog. It's like, well, hold on. You were supposed to go to the bank, you know, you were supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. You didn't read that book, and that book may have changed part of your life. They say, well, I ain't got enough time. Well, when you gonna get the time? Ain't nobody handing out free time all over the place. You got the same 24 hours everybody got.
Everybody.
You know?
Yep.
So either you gonna do your thing throughout this entire day, and then when it's time for you to go to sleep, you're gonna sit up and read that book because you picked the book out because there was something about it that could help your life. You know, we giving up.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and you know, you got to press. You got to get inside this thing and make things happen. Ain't nobody coming into anybody's life to make nothing happen. You know, it ain't gonna happen. The same way you was yesterday, you will be the next day if you don't intentionally start to change who you are and how you do what you do. It just is what it is.
Yep. Oh my gosh, brother. You mentioned something, and we don't have a place into it but I think we need to speak about it. You kind of touched on a bit about being in the apartments, etc., and trying to get you out of that lifestyle. I think a part of even the self-awareness portion of it, and I'm trying to figure out where I will put it. Maybe it's the knowledge portion, is the exposure. Like I think the lack of exposure, like your mother was attempting to get you out of that lifestyle because of the exposure that you had. So you're being exposed to this type of lifestyle, etc., which I'm not crapping on. It is, you know, things are what they are. But however, and some people may, you know, as crazy as it may sound, that's where some people want to be. It is what it is. I've heard people say they love the hood. They'll never leave the hood. They don't even, they go out of the hood and they feel a certain kind of way. They just not, they're a little bit meek. There's some people who don't leave a certain block structure, no matter how, and they don't want to go. They're comfortable in where they are. But some people aren't. And I don't want to ostracize those people, but the thing that those people are lacking as to why they don't leave is because of lack of exposure. And I noticed that when I was working with the kids at the center, was that and that was one of the biggest things of reason why I did a lot of things that I did when I was working with the city, was to get these kids exposed to as many things as I possibly could, because at least they have a different frame of reference. They have a different reference. They're not just going by like this is the way life is, and then they get to a certain point and they can't see themselves living outside of this life. So now I'm exposing you, like we took them to Atlanta or whatever. We take them to Atlanta on these college trips, you know, and when we went, I made sure they had like the first class treatment. We ate at some of the best restaurants. We weren't just doing like, McDonald's or whatever. Like we ate at some great restaurant. I want to expose you to this restaurant because I know my parents weren't, when I was coming up, like, going to Sizzlers. I don't know how many people remember Sizzlers, but that was like fine dining for me back then in the day, and I was appreciative for it, but I didn't know any better till I got a little bit older and was able to be exposed to more things. But the ability for me to move, to go to Jamaica and come back, etc., like that was huge exposure. That made me feel a certain kind of way. So it was just like being exposed to different things. So now when I got older, I wasn't scared to be in these different things, but exposure also helps with your self-awareness. There was an actress. I want to say it was. Go ahead.
I definitely think you're right about throwing that into the knowledge part,
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to help one another, going back to that, it takes a village to raise a child, or like you were talking about earlier today, as far as being able to meet somebody else that can, help coach you into something or coach you out
Right.
of something, just like broadening your horizons, I remember my grandma going to my grandmama's house in the projects was like the best thing. It was just awesome. And I had to go there every day that I wasn't in school. Every single day I went to my grandmama's house. She had a
Right.
piano in there. We used to get around the piano and she would sing hymns and stuff like that. And we had some rich family times and ties that some people don't experience when they leave out of the community. And I'm gonna let you get back to this, but I'm gonna draw out this one point. Something that came to me just with the whole thing with MLK Jr., and what I have seen, in dealing with other communities that are really close and tight knit, what MLK Jr. did, along with, many of the greats of his time, whether it was, Malcolm X, or Rosa Parks, or just many, even Jesse Jackson, but many of the greats who were just working in that time. What they did, was to formulate this plan to get Black people to be able to move into a progressive lifestyle where they could be accepted and they can gain of all the things that this country has, And it wasn't necessarily to just be removed from the projects, but it was to expand the mindset to be accepted in anything that they possibly wanted to do as equals. And that was really the purpose of that whole movement at that point in time, was I am not less of a human being
Right.
because of the color of my skin. It's the nature of my upbringing and the viewpoint of those that are around me that continues to push me downward. But I don't want to go down that route. My whole point is that after this movement happened, there was like this, and I think we talked about this before by, I think it was Carter who wrote that one book, but it's just talking about the miseducation of the Negro,
Yeah.
you know. And the whole thing that was going on there is that there was this opportunity where blacks were still put down even after they got the education, because the education that they got only separated them from their own people. And so they had to move out of their neighborhoods to be accepted with the education that they had. But when they moved out of their neighborhoods, they weren't accepted because they still were black, you know. And when they went back to their neighborhood, because they had this new education, they weren't accepted because they were looked at as being white. So there was this huge difference. All right, let me get to my point. When it came down to it, I looked at something and I noticed this, that there was something missing in people. As a black people, I found that there had become more schism between blacks. And I'll never forget, maybe about 20 years ago, 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, I was in a program, not by choice, but because I had done something wrong. And I was attending a school in Belle Glade. And while I was attending the school, I looked at a sign, a poster, and the poster was on the wall, and it was filled with Ku Klux Klan members, 300, 400. This is on the door in Belle Glade. And the heading said, you know, some of them got their mask off. There's no reason for us to kill y'all because you're killing yourself. And I was like, whew. Oh, man. Oh, man. Did we, you know, and now catching up to me now, did we seriously get to the point where we are so educated that we are not even helping our own people anymore? That we are not helping blacks anymore? Did we get to the point where we just leave the projects and we don't look back? Did we get to the point where we separate ourselves, you know, and this as a whole, not as an individual, you know? And I know I went off on a tangent there.
No, I'm interested in this. Go ahead, because I had a similar conversation this morning. Go ahead, brother.
So then I started working a specific job, and I'm still working that job. And I began to recognize the same type of attributes inside of a different culture. And I wondered, because when I looked at how the Asian community from the outside looking in comes into America, they stick together, build. The Arabic stick together, build. You know, the Cubans stick together, build. Black people just go apart. As a whole, I ain't talking about individuals. There's a whole lot of pockets of people sticking together, and there's a whole lot of people that are trying to bring people back, especially through the church system or the system of coming together to serve God. But this is just like, this is a huge thing when you brought up environment, you know, and intentional. People are coming here and they're like, don't worry about a thing. You ain't got no money. Don't worry about it. Your cousin, your friend, your whatever, you know, he came from our neighborhood from back in such and such. They're going to set you up with a place to live. They're going to give you a job. They're going to give you your clothes. And then, you know, black people is just like, you got to make it on your own, bro.
You know what, this so this is an interesting conversation, and I know we got to touch on it even before we got on. We got on this live. Immediately before we got live, we had a conversation about a certain individual that's popular in this YouTube space and in the social media space in regards to, you know, this schism that happens within the culture. I don't say our culture, the culture. And up until 19, like if we go back and actually do the research, you know, prior to 1950, like it was a community. You know what I mean? And I would say even from 1950 on to, let's say, to 1950 to maybe about the 80s, somewhere around the 80s, because I
70, 80,
yeah,
70,
yeah, yeah.
80.
I kind of got a remnant. Like it was like a little bit of that going on. Like we had a bunch of stuff going on at the time because you had the drug. Oh my God, we're going so way off the topic. But you kind of had the drugs, you kind of had this stuff going on, etc. But it was still like, even if you was a drug dealer, you still had some type of sense of community. You know what I mean? Like at this point in time, it's just all the wild, wild west kind of deal. But just to that point. But let's say the official ending of what you're talking about in regards to everybody helping each other, that kind of thing. Like it was so much a much more closer knit community immediately after slavery, even during the 1915s, 20s, 20 Jim Crow era, all these different eras up until the 19, up to 1950. But after 1950, like you said, we started to notice there's a huge schism that happened. Um, which is, I mean, I want to go back to what we're talking about. A lot of that has to do some people will blame it on the lack of not self-awareness necessarily, but like their like the history of themselves. You know what I mean? Like people are blamed, but I think a lot of things got lost in the sauce, and a lot of these things happened between 1950 and like 19, you know, 90, like 1990, because 1950 you still had remnants of something, but then after that, the further we get away from that, the worse things got, because then things just started to become more, we more divided. So I think lack of understanding of where you come from, like people don't even understand their history. You know what I mean? Like people don't even understand you mentioned Martin Luther King. There's a bunch of 20-year-olds that don't even know who you're talking about. Malcolm X, they heard of, they might have heard of him, but they don't really understand the how momentum, not momentum, how legendary these people are throughout history. Those old civil rights leaders. You know what I mean? You start talking about a bunch of different people. You of course you're very intimately, and not necessarily the civil rights movement, but definitely a movement within itself, spiritually, was Daddy Grace. When you start to look at the history on him, like that's a huge thing, and it's still going on now. You're a part of that church. So that was huge. So you had that happening. You had the Elijah Muhammad. You had like these very, very powerful people bringing a community together. And then, like I said, after 1950, everything started to become watered down to where we are now. Like if I went and asked Elijah Seville who Elijah Muhammad is, he might look at me crazy. You know what I mean? And it's up to me to instill those type of things. Just like with you and Jonah, you have to instill Daddy Grace into Jonah. Who's this person? What, the history of him and why he's so important. Important, and so once again, just blaming it on ourselves, because I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, because we can go deep on it. But
Yeah, well, let me say this, because and that brings me right, man. Sometimes I tell you, it's almost like you got one side of the brain, I got the other. It's like,
I'll let you hold it one day, and then I can just go to sleep, and then we'll switch days. You give me
I like that idea.
We'll have a whole brain walking around here.
But see, like that brings us back full circle, because you were mentioning the environment, and what the exposure, and you were talking about that, and then you were mentioning what I was referencing, how my mother did XYZ, right? And parents, you got to do this. You got to expose your children, because that goes back to what I was saying earlier about that self-awareness is being developed at a young age. Yeah. You can't wait for this stuff. Just like he talking about his son, my son, his sons, my daughters. It's got to happen. Who's going to come by here and teach my child all of these things that I believe are very important? Yep. He is developing he is becoming aware every day I open my mouth. And every day somebody else opens their mouth, he is also becoming aware. And whatever they are giving him, I have no idea because I'm not with him all day. I'm not here with him now. I'm not there with him right now. Somebody, it's at nighttime, so he's with his mama, but somebody is feeding him something all the time.
Yep.
Somebody is feeding them children.
So everything goes that. So that's the intentionality part of it.
That's the intentionality.
That's the self-awareness part of it.
That's the knowledge.
You were speaking about knowledge. You were speaking about modeling. Like you were speaking about a bunch of these different things. But so it's even so now you done got to a point, and you all got to forgive us as we go down this tangent because we're also this work in progress because we don't have all the information. You know what I mean? But the information that we do have, we're sharing. But this gets so deep. You see how easily we went from talking about just ourselves and whoever's consuming this content. We're talking about ourselves becoming self-aware. We're talking about ourselves becoming this. It's not like because we're fully self-actualized. We're not fully self-actualized. We're still working on this growth part of where we are. I think the only person. Go ahead.
Well, and this is this part of what people have to understand too. The reason why you get what you get from us is because we put in the work. Yeah. Like it's not just okay. So we're giving off these points, and you're gonna be able to look. And this is part of what you wanted to do, Mike. This is part of your baby in this show, right? Because in some ways I wanted to put together a little show and we put it all together and line it out and put it out. But part of what you want to do is live stream. So this is what you are getting. This is the benefit of it being live stream out there. Because the thing is what you are getting is the reasons why, which you're not going to get from everybody who's just putting out point 1, point 2, point 3. All right, have a great day.
Yeah. Nah.
My light went off.
You got so
but my light's on, y'all. Lights on, y'all.
You turn the lights off over there. Listen, but we get it. This is like the deepness part of it because it comes back to there's that structure. Now the person we were talking about earlier prior to that, might not necessarily like his tactics. Might not necessarily like his strategies. One thing that I, just speaking on that real quickly is that, you don't get to 1 million subscribers on YouTube without having some form of entertainment. So it has to be some kind of entertainment to kind of draw people in. So you have that part has to be it. We can be we can give as much gems as we want to, but sometimes you want to put that sugar with the medicine. You know what I mean? Sometimes, what is it? A teaspoon of sugar makes the medicine go down. Remember that song?
Yeah.
So, and I remember we used to be Jello. My mother used to put my stuff in the Jello. That's how she snuck my liver medication in. And then you bit into it. He was like, "Dang, you got me." You got the taste already in your mouth. Now you might as well just swallow it. You understand me? So I can never forget that time. But long story short, is that one thing that the brother talks about, thing the guy talks about is the family structure. And when we're talking about this history in the 1950s, we start to see the erosion of the family structure. We start to see the fathers no longer in the households. And truth be told, like, because you mentioned this earlier, it's not just necessarily an African American thing. It's more so like a Western culture thing. Because Western culture, but the black culture, like one person mentioned, I forget who it was who mentioned it, but it wasn't I didn't bring up this point, is like the canary in the hole, and the canary in the mind. Like we're the first ones to feel the actual the effects of the negativity of things. You know what I mean? That's why you start to see, like with the corona, how we're so, according to the statistics anyways, how we're so much more affected. When you start to look at the abortion rates, how much more black people are affected. 36% of all the abortions come from the African-American community, whereas we're only 13 to 14% of the population, but we account for 36% of the abortions. Now, I'm not here to tell you whether abortion is right or wrong. I don't believe in it, but I'm not going to tell you whether it's right or wrong. What I'm telling you is that there's no reason why we should have 36% of these people, 36% of all abortions coming from this, because that essentially it starts from just bad choices from the beginning. The choice, the bad choice, things just start to get compounded. So that's my rant on that. But essentially what I'm getting at is that we end up taking the brunt effects of all the negativity or all the negative things that occur within the Western culture. But it is across all cultures. These things are happening. The erosion of the family. So once you have this erosion of the family, now, like when you start to talk about self-awareness, if the man is not in the house, where is the son getting his information about becoming a man? If the mother is not in the house, how is this person how is the young girl learning to become a wife or becoming a woman or becoming whatever? Because, here's my famous quote. Denzel Washington played the heck out of Malcolm X, but he wasn't Malcolm X. He was modeling Malcolm X. He did a great job at it, just like a lot of women do a great job at raising children. A lot of men do a great job at raising children, but it still doesn't account for those two family members who can kind of glean off each other, who can kind of fill in when the other person's not filling in. Imagine when you being at the home by yourself dealing with 2-3 children, and you may necessarily need a break right then and there. Lord knows I do sometimes when I just, when it gets to that boiling point. But it's like you gotta go through it. But it's the kids. One thing about kids don't hear what they don't really listen to you. I mean, they hear the words that are coming out your mouth, but they're more so looking at what you're showing them, and that's what they're mimicking. So it's gonna be hard pressed for a woman to be a man and for this kid to glean off of this woman, a male to glean off a woman and him in becoming a man. So now, like I said, all these things compound against each other. So where is self-awareness there? So now you end up becoming something similar to myself, becoming 25, 26, 27, 28, and being like, whoa, this is okay. So this is how it should be. I shouldn't be totally consumed with my emotions, because as a man, men tend to be more logical, whereas women tend to be more emotional. But men coming from households that were raised by women tend to be more emotional. So now you have this emotional man that's also has this masculinity about him. He's still a man. If that makes, you're still a man. And any man going to a man knows that there's a slight threat of violence. I know that I can only go so far with this man before he puts his hands on me, or before hands get, something can happen. Whereas, you might give a little bit more leniency to a woman. So a woman can go in and do this and say this and say that. And you just be like, man, this is a lose-lose situation for me. I can't, I'm just going to walk away. But a man sitting here saying all kinds of crazy stuff to you, especially, when you're not mature and you're more emotional, violence can take place. You got a lot of people because they were mimicking their mothers. They're mimicking this emotionalness, and this is not a negative trait. Like, I'm not saying it's negative to be emotional. It's not. It's just a part of it's human nature. But if you go up around a man, you see this man. If you're modeling, like, so for Jonah to model you, he's saying, okay, like this is strength. My dad is strength because he's quiet and he's patient and he's a thinking man. So I don't immediately have to jump into action. Whereas if you're not around and he sees certain things, he's like, he may try to overcompensate. I got to jump in. I got to show these people I'm a man. Not knowing that this is what, I'm pointing at Joe. If y'all don't see my hand, I'm pointing at him on my screen. This is what a man looks. This is what a man does.
That's a true statement.
Yeah. This is a man who walks away. This is a man who's strong enough to walk away and not lose face. And this other person is looking crazy because this man turned his back and was like, man, let me go home to my wife. I hear what you're saying, brother. You're getting loud and rambunctious and all that. I think you need to go handle that because your problem is not with me. But this is some deep stuff because so now herein lies this self-aware. Herein lies the work that needs to be done.
Yes, yes.
Herein
And
lies
so,
the work.
yeah, go ahead.
You know, I mean, because herein lies the work. Like this is these are the boulders we got to take up out of this ground. You know, to use
Yeah.
to go down your model. These are the boulders that you got to drag out. These are the boulders that you need to hire a coach who has a crane, not a crane, a backhoe to come dig up out this ground. Because you don't necessarily have the tools for it. And if your father's not around, because your father should be that backhoe, your father should be that crane, or for women, if your mother's not around or something happened to your mother is supposed to be that crane, that backhoe. It's because we're supposed to be building on top of that. And those tools are already refined. You know what I mean? But we jump out into the world with a toothpick in our hand with a tooth. This is the work. And we putting in this work. We putting in this work with our toothpick. We putting in this work with our hands, and then we're starting to derive a lot of this stuff, and we're paying for some of this stuff. The therapy sessions, the coaching sessions. We're getting around other men who have these tools and going to our neighbors and saying, "Hey, man, I see you got this thing. Let me borrow that." And I'm figuratively speaking, but literally, I'm going to a person saying, "Man, I see, man, you got a great family, brother. How do you get past this hump?" And I lean on Joel all the time. I'm going to Joel saying, "Hey, brother, this relationship that you have going on, you know, spiritually, whatever the case may be with your wife, like y'all been together. How many years is it now, brother?
23.
23 years. What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like what kind of tools are you using for what are the tools that you're using? Work. That's the work that we're putting in. That's the time that we're putting in to gain all this self-awareness, because you can't move forward. You can't lay the foundation if you got all the if the soil is not right. You know, like I said, using Joel's model. But
That's right.
If you don't have the tool to get this boulder out, you got to go in search of the tools, and that's the exposure that we kind of were talking about. All this
or you're going to face hardship.
Yeah.
Just like whether you got a toothpick or whether you got a spoon, or you got to dig that thing out with your own hands, you're on your knees, and it all depends on what kind of makeup you are, whether you're man or female, it doesn't matter. You can do it. Even if you haven't learned it. You said that earlier, whether you're 20, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50, you can still do it. Whether you're in the middle of a relationship or not, you can still do it. I mean, all of these things that we were going down, there's probably like 4 or 5 more of them that was coming about that we were about to talk about into that groundwork. We have to get on another time.
Yeah.
But I think that what just ended up happening is that there was when we ended up with that example, it just opened up the doors. Like, hold on, we have to stop. So I don't know, somebody may be out there like, what's the rest of them? It is what it is. Show up next week, but the thing is, is that this is real, and you could tell because the passion inside the both of us began to just erupt, because it's like, this is what's going on, You can't see. It's like an iceberg. You know what I mean? All you see is Mike and Joe on the screen. And it's all like, oh, man, love, great. Mike got the beautiful TV and the nice painting and, painted wall and the lights coming up. And I know I even went back and was watching these videos and I saw the progression of his room. And it looks really good. But listen, he didn't get that just by being Mike. It's not like people just knocked on his door. Ding dong. Oh, hey, listen, I got a TV for you. It don't work that way. He had to put work in to get that. Yep. He had to put work in to put the microphone system up there. He had to put work in to get the yard stream. He had to put work in. And then not only that, the things that he's talking about, this is real life stuff. These are things that have worked for him and lessons that he has learned. And it's the same way with me. And what we're given, gems drop all the time. And listen, there was a time before when I would have been real bashful about it. You know what I mean? But why should I be bashful? I'm walking in my real life purpose. I'm walking in my passion. So what does that make me? It makes me bold. Makes me tenacious. It makes me ready to just go ahead and give this out. Why? Because I know it will help. I know it. But if you want to get down to the nitty gritty of it, forget the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever things that there are about this whole scenario that we're giving to you. Let's talk about the real deal. You know what I mean? Let's talk about sitting up there inside of the apartment when I'm looking at somebody get stabbed and possibly killed outside of my window,
Hmm.
right? Let's talk about the real deal when I hear the gunshots and they're shooting at me, right? Okay, so when we start talking about the real thing about this whole thing, like, you know, people look around, oh man, I don't even know. There was a point in time when I felt so bad because like people they were like, oh, that man he ain't even black. Like, what you talking about? What does it take to be black? Dude, get out of my face. You don't know what I've been through. Just because I can walk around and I don't have to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders anymore, that's because I've self-actualized, I've self-awareness, and I'm proud of who I am. And I don't have to walk around, you know, and do whatever it takes to make people believe that I'm black. I don't care what you think.
Yep.
Anybody for that matter. I'm a real man, and it just
Yep.
is what it is. And I'm not looking for anybody out there to tell me I'm a real man. I don't need any validation. I validate myself. Put a check mark on it.
Verify the brother.
Yeah. Boom.
Verify-
Done.
We verify ourselves. We don't gotta wait
That's
for
it.
Instagram or TikTok or anybody or Instagram or what is it? YouTube.
YouTube,
verify.
TikTok,
We
Instagram, Facebook, you book, me book, we book. I don't care what book, because the only book that matters is the book that we are writing and the book that's being written for us by God's angel. And
Yeah.
if you ain't that angel, you ain't got nowhere near, you don't have no reason to be anywhere near our books. Stay out our books. But I tell you what you can do if you want to understand what's really happening, and if you want to get some nuggets, you want to get some gems, or you want to get some advice, or you want to get some coaching, or you want to learn some lessons, then come on and talk with us. I'll open up my book personally, and I'll tell you whatever you need to know that'll help you, because I don't mind giving away any of it. I'll give it freely because I went through something to get to where I am.
Yeah.
Guarantee that. And so did Mike. That's why we so tight together. You know, it ain't bad. We went through the same things, but listen, all of this stuff, you know, self-awareness, purpose, you know, intentionalisms, that's what's happening. That's what's
happening.
bringing success now
Yes.
and
Yeah.
yesterday for that matter.
Is that and you hear the brother talk, man? This is it's not gonna be easy, but it'll be worth it.
Right.
Right? It's not gonna be easy. That the brother, you hear the brother talking like he spoke about the passion in it, and because it's the work that's involved. But you know, once again, just you know, as we go back through those numbers that we went through, you know, that self-awareness piece, don't just jump into your purpose. We trying to explain it to you. And that aha moment definitely was when the brother spoke about the marital relations and we started talking about the grounding. You want to jump into a relationship with someone and start the foundation, our foundation. What you know about foundation, and you haven't worked on yourself, especially once you start getting up to certain ages, because we start to create all these things. We start to create all these things in our mind already. This ego takes over. We start to become rigid in our thinking. So how you rigid and have this ego, and then you want to coexist with somebody else? And not saying that you
can
can't
do it though.
I gotta say it's not to say that you can't, but do understand that it's based simply on duty and what would I call it? It'd be like duty and more so transactional. I'm not saying you can't do it. Like you can become flexible again, but it takes work. It takes work to go from rigid to flexible. You're gonna have to work on yourself. And a lot of this stuff you already have to, but you gotta start somewhere, and that's what that's what that self-awareness. Sit in a room by yourself, man. Do it for 5 minutes for forever. You know, I was gonna tell you to do it for a week, but just every day you get up, figure out, prioritize 5 minutes. If you can't find 5 minutes, then fine, you need 10. If you can't find 5, you need 10. But I'm telling you, start with 5 minutes. Sit in a room by yourself. Turn off everything. Turn off your ringer, turn off TVs, no radio, no meditation music, no nothing. And just sit there and listen.
Let your mind talk.
Yeah, let your mind and deal what you got to deal with. and you don't have to. But I really don't see success in the way that you think of it. You might get money, but money man. I heard some of the sickest things I heard in my life today, coming from a guy who I thought was giving out excellent information on YouTube, but then you find out his character is lacking, and it comes from and this guy is attempting to excuse certain behaviors that's just sickening. Excuse behaviors that's sickening, but you can tell like this dude, and he's a millionaire, millions. But this dude got some situations going on in his mind that he needs to go figure out. But he can't do that. So his addiction is getting this money and giving off this air of success. But I can guarantee you when he got to sit with himself, which he probably doesn't, but if he does sit with himself, you got to be sick of yourself, because only sick people would be able to go on and doing certain things like that. I don't want to get too far into it because that's a whole other conversation. I think at one point in time, though, we do need to talk about good people need to start speaking out more. I think good people need to start speaking out more. Like, we need to start bringing awareness to this stuff, because the negativity is speaking loud enough, but we need to be as loud or louder than the negativity. People got to see it. We got to expose people to this good stuff. All right, I'm done. Mike Seville, real estate. Love you. What's going on, brother?
Motivatedpreneur. TikTok. Y'all get with me. All right.
He's trying to get to that 1,000. Not trying. He's getting to that 1,000. Be one of the 1,000.
Be one of the 1,000.
Yeah.
I want. As soon as I hit that 1,000, I'm about to put the ad out too for all those that are already following, because I'm going to give away something, man. I don't know if it's going to be $100 or it might be a few $100. Maybe it might be $1,000.
That'd be dope.
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna give it away, and it's only gonna go to the followers that are there. I'm gonna do that ad, and I don't care if I get 1,000 more on that same day. But once I do that, I'm gonna do an ad, and maybe Mike, maybe you can help me do it. Maybe I invite you on over there to the TikTok. There's a way to share screens.
Okay.
And I'll see if we can do it together. I got to get there first, before I can do that live. But I'm going to give away something. I got a way of, I'm going to put it inside the messages so that all y'all can go out there and, we'll do it like in gift cards or something like that, electronic gift cards, And so that way, when you put your information down and you send it to me, and we pick the winner, it'll be randomized winners amongst those people. Send out those gift cards, and then I invite you onto the show so that you can go ahead and tell everybody how you got your gift card.
Awesome. Listen, people, good show, man. Good show. This is deep. I like this. I like this, and I like the format. I like going deep into this stuff. I like figuring out some stuff, but just to like we said, man, this is work, but it's well worth it. Time gonna go by anyways, man.
Yeah.
Time gonna go by anyways. Let's make the best of it, man. I love you guys. I'm glad. God is good. We got no calls, no nothing, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So till next week. Till next week, where we are. 6:30 Monday, of course. 9 o'clock. I will be on there, God willing. So see you all next week.
All right, everybody. Peace.